everyone, my name is Amber. Welcome back to my channel, Amber Reads Romance. Today I figured just like randomly, I thought, why don't I do a vlog while the Mafia Romance Readathon's going on. So this is just a quick little intro. It was kind of spontaneous. I decided I wanted to do it because as I was reading The Spy, I wanted to gush. And I also wanted to rant about the horrible one that I'm reading. So anyways, let's just dive right in to where I'm at so far. So this is the first day of the Mafia Romance Readathon, and I started out with The Spy by Sophie Lark. This has been on my TBR forever, and I've put it off because I didn't want to finish the series, but I am reading that right now. I'm not too far into it. I'm about like 25% in, but I'm loving it. It's so fast paced. Right off the first page, it's like action packed. The Spy, I can't say much about it, but I do want to gush about Sophie because she's such an amazing author. This book, I can't really say a lot because it'll spoil the other books for you, because The Spy is a secret person, like a hidden person. You don't know who this guy is, who he really was, and he's been alluded to in the other books in the Kingmaker series. And so in this, you do find out who the spy is, and I'm happy to say I saw it coming, so I'm happy with who it is, but I was shocked with who his father was and who the third POV in the book is. It like actually made me kind of emotional, and I wasn't expecting to feel emotional about this book. So I'm absolutely loving it. We're back at Kingmakers. We are introducing a brand new heroine that we didn't have in any of the previous books. And there's a lot of like mafia stuff going on because the spy is there for revenge. He's kind of had a hidden identity and he's there for reasons. And so I'm really liking it a lot so far. I love the heroine. She's a really strong, badass kind of chick. And I love the spy. And I'm just super excited about the third POV and finding out who the spy is. So unfortunately, it's super vague because I can't really give anything away. I don't want to do spoilers for this because I want anybody to be able to watch this video, and I don't want to ruin the other books for people. So I'm out in my car right now after work. I just got home, but I know my son's going to be, he got the new Star Wars game, so he's kind of monopolizing out in the living room and screaming and being passionate about the game. So I figured I'll just try and do this update real quick in my car. The other book that I'm reading is on audiobook, and I am reading Twisted Hearts by Cora Reily. I have put off this book forever because I read a lot of bad reviews and I didn't really like his character in the previous books. I love the Cora Chronicles so far, and so I want to finish the series. So I kind of am forcing myself with this readathon to finally read it. And I think I'm about 40% in, because I listened to it at work today, and I hate it so far. I absolutely hate it. I get the reviews that were like DNFing it and 1-star, 2-star reviews. I hate Savio Falcone. He's a total man whore, but not in a fun, whatever redeeming way. He's a freaking scumbag, and I hate his character. You have Gemma, who's like basically his friend's little sister that's been in love with him since she was like 10. They have like a 4-year age difference. So like the first part of the book, it's like literally her at 10, then her at 13, then 14, 15, now she's 16, and her parents are trying to find like a marriage for her. So she's had a crush on Savio this whole time and not shy about it, and like would beg to learn fighting from Savio, and he would kind of just toy with her, and he's just a man slut that never wants to get married. And so now that she's 16, all of a sudden she's got this banging body, and he totally objectifies her and just looks at her sexually. But he doesn't ever want to get married. So she keeps letting him know, like, my parents are going to find somebody for me. My parents are going to find somebody for me. And he like didn't really care. Well, sure enough, they are going to have her arranged marriage kind of thing to one of her brother's other friends. And now he doesn't want her to get married because he wants to be her first and be able to hit that. And her family's very traditional where like she can't kiss a guy till she's married, have sex till she's married. So now he's like, well, I'm going to marry her, but I'm going to put, have the engagement a few years out and then we can just have sex, or I have plenty of women on the side that I can hook up with. And literally during, like, as they're becoming engaged, like he's fucking around with other women, but he expects her to be chaste and be only for him. He's a total fucking scumbag. And Gemma has no backbone. She's so pathetic. She's one of the most pathetic heroines I think I've ever seen in a book. I mean, she is like throwing herself at him for years and he literally just treats her like shit and she just takes it. It's like the first time he spurned you and didn't want anything to do with you and told you nothing would happen. That's it. The end. She's so pathetic. Like, this other guy could have probably been a good husband to her and actually wanted her and asked for her hand. And like Savio just wants her because other guys wanted her and he wants to own her. And this book, honestly, I would probably DNF it if it wasn't for the readathon. But I'm going to push through. I'm going to read it. I'm going to finish it. Luckily, it's on audiobook because if I had to sit and read this physically, I think I would lose my freaking mind. I hate Savio. The only good parts of this is seeing Nino, my man, best book boyfriend, amazing man from Twisted Emotions, and Kiara. It's great seeing Ramo and all that, and seeing Ramo as a father, which is interesting. So the only good thing about this is the characters I already love. I could give two shits about these characters. I hate them, honestly. So I'm sorry this is super negative, but hating that book. Loving The Spy. I need to get back into it because I want to try and finish it. I don't know if I'll finish it today because work's been crazy and I didn't have a lot of time to read. But hopefully I will finish it because I still want to read 2 other books for the Mafia Readathon. So I will check in with you probably tomorrow and hopefully have a better update. Hopefully I finish The Spy, but who knows how it's going to go. All right, thanks. I'll see you on the next one. Hey everyone, just checking in. I did end up finishing The Spy last night. I stayed up super late. I was determined to finish it, so I am exhausted today at work. I absolutely love this book. Sophie Lark did it again. It was a 6-star for me. It was an amazing conclusion to the series. I know she has The Savage, which is kind of like not in the series, but kind of in the series a little bit. I haven't heard that many great things about it, so I don't know when I'm going to get to that. But this really was a good conclusion. I obviously can't still say anything about it because it'll ruin, you know, all the previous books and the build-up and all the little hints that Sophie like laid out throughout the series to lead to this book. Basically, you kind of go into this not knowing who the spy is, kind of wondering who he's going to be. When it's revealed, it is somebody that I pretty much knew it was the spy. But like the reveals that happen about his father, his parents, side characters, like stuff going on. It was just so good. It was action packed. It was a lot more full of like mafia and mafia politics. So it had a lot of that going with it. And it really brought it in together at the end where we have an amazing epilogue with like all the, you know, people from this series. And really the big standout to me was Dean's, was in the prologue. Dean and the bully, that's like my favorite. And just to see him and how happy he is and how much he loves Kat and how sweet it was in the epilogue, like it was so beautiful. I loved this book. It was so excellent. I mean, you really get the full effect of it if you do read it in the order that Sophie and her husband say to. So I would definitely recommend this book and this series. So unfortunately, that's a great start to this. But unfortunately, the Cora Reily book, Twisted Hearts, I believe it is, Savio Falcone is a scumbag. I hated this book. It took me so long to get through it. Luckily, I listened to an audiobook because I don't think I could have made it through like through it with reading it physically. He is a total douchebag. The things that he says, the way he treats Gemma, he's just disgusting. He's literally fucking and screwing other women pretty much this entire book. They're not like fully together, but they're engaged. And he's still like off fucking other women and throwing it in her face, like not ashamed of it. And I mean, Gemma is just so pathetic. Like, I would have been like, no, forget you. Like, I'll find another man who will treat me right. And she literally, like, I can't handle the pining woman. Like, the pining woman that will do whatever the guy wants and doesn't care. And just, she is, ugh, I hated this book. So I feel really bad because the Cora Chronicles, I've loved that series. But this book did not belong. I didn't like it. I hated Savio. I hated Gemma. I hated the whole thing. So I'm probably going to have to give it like 2 stars, honestly. Like, it's probably a 1 star, but I'll round it up to like 2 stars on Goodreads. And I hate to do that because I love Cora Reily and I did love this series. But like, you can't go from Nino Falcone to like Savio, who's like a freaking horrible human being. Anyways, I hated it. Like, even, and then you only get to, like, they finally have sex literally at 93%. And Gemma's like this goody, oh, it's a sin to have sex before marriage. Okay. But then they literally get married and she still won't put out for him. Like, oh, I have to wait till I'm married. No, now I'm going to punish you by not having sex with you. And you should have punished him by not being with him. And like, so they're like married for weeks and weeks and she's still not putting out. And she like thinks it's a sin if she enjoys giving him a blowjob. It's so fucking annoying. I hated it. Sorry for the rant, but that was one of the worst books I've ever read. So now I'm going to go into Maggie Cole's Cruel Enforcer for the Mafia Wars. This is book 3, and I'm really excited to dive into this one. I think it's going to have like BDSM and maybe an older woman and younger man kind of thing. So I will check in with you once I kind of get a little bit further into that. Hey everyone, I just want to do a quick check-in. Sorry, this is kind of bad lighting and I'm not looking great, but want to get this check-in before I get started cleaning the house and stuff this morning. But I did get about 50% into A Cruel Enforcer, and I'm really liking this book by Maggie Cole. I didn't like the last book like at all, and so that's what kind of put this on the back burner for me, and it's kind of just been sitting on my Kindle forever. I did use this as like the longest on my library prompt because it's been in there forever. I didn't really like the last book, which was like Boris and Nora, I think. It didn't really hit for me. Loved the first book. But so far, I'm really enjoying this one. It's for Sergei, and he is like one of the younger brothers. Even though younger, he's like in his 30s. The heroine in this is the best friend of Aspen, one of the best friends from the first book. And so it kind of backtracks a little bit to things that happened in the first book. That's kind of what the series does, is it kind of goes back in time per couple to show you what happened during like kind of like the same timeline. And so she's like a badass lawyer, and she is very confident. He kind of calls her a piranha, even though she gets hangups about that because she feels like her being such an alpha dominant badass woman like pushes men away, like they can't handle it. So she doesn't want to downplay that part of herself, but she also doesn't really like want a guy in the bedroom that's like, you know, easily dominated. So Sergei is very into BDSM. He runs into her like at that club where Aspen was kind of got into trouble in the first book, and her friends with her, and they were kind of around these other Russians that were like their enemies basically. So they end up meeting that night, totally hitting it off. He's kind of ended a relationship that's not even a full relationship, but they do have a BDSM like dynamic, and she's this bitchy model that kind of just uses him for his cock, as he says. And so he's kind of done because she's just not all there. She's really into being like hurt, so she's a little off. So they end up hitting it off, kind of getting like flirting and end up going like on a date. And then he ends up taking her to a club that he used to go with that ex-girlfriend. He usually likes to do stuff at home, but he thought that would be more safe. And so they do like a scene and, you know, mess around, and she realizes that she likes to be dominated by him, and he can kind of take the control away from her for once, like in the bedroom. And so they have like, you know, amazing chemistry and everything, and hit it off that night. But then like he disappears for days because of mafia stuff going on, and kind of ghosted her. Didn't mean to, but he was torturing some guys for a few days, and he has insomnia and all that kind of stuff. So she ends up giving him another chance, and but these men in these books are like very like, don't ask me about what I do. You can't know anything about my crime lifestyle, anything. And he's like, if you can't handle that, then walk away now. This is your out, because I will not tell you anything. So that kind of frustrates me, especially because she just wants to support him and learn more about him. But he was tortured at a young age from this enemy that they have that basically made them work for him when they were younger, had like their mom. Oh, there's my cat. And all that. But he like, so his whole back was severely scarred and like very like burned and all that kind of stuff. Okay, sorry about that. Just got kind of interrupted by my mom. Anyways, so he was severely burned, tortured, all that kind of stuff. So he doesn't like to be touched on his back, and he doesn't like to turn his back on her or anything. So he's got some major issues, insomnia, nightmares, all that kind of stuff. But so far I'm really loving it. There's another character introduced that I think comes into another book, which is one of her clients. She's a divorce attorney, and her client is trying to be like away from her abusive husband. She was like from Greece, and so he made it so she couldn't get a green card really, and would cut her off from all her friends. And so now she was trying to get a divorce, and she had nowhere to go. So Sergey like offers up one of their properties, like a nice like suite, and for her to stay there for free. And so that was just really nice. And so it's going to be interesting to see what happens with this woman. There's some drama going on with the heroine's sister trying to get like 20,000 from her like multiple times. And so he's worried about her getting taken advantage of. So I'm really liking their relationship, their dynamic. I love Sergey. He's awesome. So far, I'm loving this book a lot. So I will check in probably once I finish it and give you guys my final thoughts. Hey guys, just doing a quick check-in. I did finish The Cruel Enforcer by Maggie Cole, and I really, really liked it. I liked this one a lot more than the last one. I think the last book I gave like 3 stars. This one, it was a little long for what it needed to be, but honestly, I read it pretty quickly and was flying through it. So, I mean, the length isn't really an issue. I was debating like 4.5 to 5 stars. I decided just to round up, give it a 5-star, because I did really enjoy it. I loved Sergey and Cora's romance. I loved Cora as a character. She's this feisty, strong, dominant, like alpha black woman. But she also has like felt like guys couldn't handle that part of her. But Sergey loves that about her and supports her, and he's so supportive and comforting. The main issues between them that led to back and forth situations was because he won't tell her anything about what he does and how he has to disappear for sometimes, and she wants more information. She wants to know about his back and how he was basically branded by their enemy when he was like 12 years old. And so he has like these scars on his back that he covered with tattoos, and she'll like kiss them and stuff, and he never let anybody touch them. So it's really moving. Their dynamic is really beautiful. They go back and forth quite a bit in like the middle of the book. So what I appreciated about this was there wasn't like a final, like a 3rd act breakup or a 3rd act conflict between them. They were solid where they loved each other. They knew they wanted to be together. He's like devoted to her and is like, you can't ever leave me. I love you. They fully are committed to each other. So I appreciate that, because you're kind of always waiting for that shoe to drop. Like, what's going to happen? Why are they going to split up now? And so I'm really happy that Maggie Cole didn't do that. And there's a lot going on with like the mafia wars and stuff, mafia going on. The end was action packed, and it's kind of leading into, you know, the next romance. I really like these books because they kind of go back in timeline where we're seeing things that we might have missed from the other books, but it's like in the same timeline as them. So like from the first book, we're kind of going, they meet each other from the first book, and so we're going back to that first meeting and seeing the different parts from like this couple's journey, if that makes sense. So I really loved it. I love Sergei. I love their BDSM. She was a very alpha woman, but she kind of needed an alpha man to like dominate her and have her submit to them. And so she's not always the one in control for once. So they had such a great relationship. I also appreciated that his ex didn't really come into the picture except for like one time, and it wasn't used as like a purposeful like conflict for them. So I really loved this. I'm excited to read the next book, which I think is going to be Adrian's and her other friend. So far we're getting like those three friends. Actually, yeah, so there's another friend too that I'm excited to get to her romance, but I don't think it's till further on. But basically the heroine from the first book, all her friends are getting romances with these Ivanovs. I think one of them might get it with an O'Malley though. So I would definitely recommend, recommend starting with Ruthless Stranger because I absolutely loved that book. And that way you kind of know all the history of what's going on with the mafia wars because a lot happens. But I absolutely loved it. I'm sad that I just did my review of Twisted Hearts and I gave it 2 stars on Goodreads. And I'm usually not that tough or mean, but I freaking hated that book. So I'm happy to have a better book after that. I'm going to go into Cosa Nostra so I can read the second book of this duet of a couple that I want to read. Hopefully I'll finish it because the Mafia Readathon ends tomorrow. So I'm hoping I'll be able to finish it before then. And then that way I can hopefully black out my whole bingo board. So I will check in with you guys tomorrow to let you know where I'm at. Let's hope that I can get the full blackout. All right, see you on the next clip. Hey guys, kind of looking a little tore up this morning, but I'm trying to get through this last book before the readathon live show. I fell asleep pretty early last night, so I am about 40% into Cosa Nostra, and I'm still really loving it. I love this couple. The last book ended like they were happily, like for now, like they're in a good place. It's just she was, there's a cliffhanger that happens where she was previously attacked. So Cassidy was previously attacked. And so in this book, she was almost raped and she had to like stab the guy that attacked her and she ended up shooting him and everything. So in this book, she's kind of having some PTSD and some trauma from that. And so her and Max haven't been able to be intimate. Every time she does, she kind of has these PTSD, a little bit of flashback episodes and panic attacks. So that was hard to see, but I appreciate that because that's the reality of, you know, almost being raped or being raped. So, and Max is just this badass. I don't think we had anything from his perspective in the last book, maybe at the very end. So it's pretty cool because in this book, it's 2 POVs, both of their POVs. And you're seeing more of like what Max does mafia wise, and he's pretty brutal. Like at one point he had a girl and he decapitated a guy. So he's pretty violent, but he is very possessive, very about protecting Cassidy. And this is kind of a little bit of a spoiler, but Cassidy ends up pregnant. So she gets results after her last hospital visit after, you know, she was attacked. And they let her know she was 6 weeks pregnant. Sorry, there's some motorcycles going around right here. Anyway, so she was 6 weeks pregnant. And she ends up telling Max. And he's happy about it, but more concerned and more possessive. So he kind of like moves her into his house. Sorry, on Sundays we live up in the mountains. So there's like the windy roads that like motorcycles love to drive, so we get a bunch driving by at once. Okay, so anyway, she's pregnant and Max is happy. He's possessive He's controlling, but he's just so, I love Max. I love their relationship. He's totally devoted to her. And I love his brothers and, you know, seeing, like how well they treat her and everything like that. So it's good so far. I'm enjoying it, but I need to jump back in because I got to finish this book before the live show today so I can black out my bingo board. All right, I'll check in a bit. Hey everyone, just doing my final check-in. I wanted to follow up with you for the Mafia Readathon closing of it. Today was a live show and it was really fun seeing what everybody read, and I had a blast. I really got to finish strong with Cosa Nostra at the end of my readathon. I really wanted to finish it before the live show today. Unfortunately, I only got to like 30% last night because I was super tired, fell asleep. Slept in, so I got up around like 10:30, 11, and so I really had to buckle down and finish reading this book so I could finish it for the live show. I did do it, but I was planning on filming a couple videos today. Obviously didn't get to that because I literally read all day, did stuff around the house, and then watched the live show. So no makeup, not looking the greatest right here, but I want to give you my thoughts because I have a lot of thoughts. I don't know if you saw that, but my cat was on top of my bookcase. Anyways, so I had a lot of thoughts about this book. I absolutely loved it. I really finished strong with it. I can't even explain it. I don't know if I'm emotional, hormonal, or what, but this book really moved me more than I thought it would. I assumed it'd be like another 4-star read. The first book was 4 stars. I kind of thought it could have been a 5-star, but I was kind of irritated with how naive and like immature the heroine was. But it does make sense for, you know, she's like barely just turned 18 and all that. So it does make sense. But she grows a lot from what happens in that book and then in this book. And her and Max go through a lot. The thing that I loved about this book, it's a duet, and in the first book, they are solid together. They're still together. There's not a cliffhanger where they break up or some kind of third act conflict, like breakup or anything like that. There is a plot, you know, kind of cliffhanger stuff with the Mafia and what happens to her. Stop it, Tootsie. My cat is annoying the crap out of me. Okay. Anyways, so she ends up getting attacked, almost raped. And so that has some long-term effects for her. Obviously, she's kind of has PTSD and she's having issues being intimate again, and not like thinking about what that guy said to her. He like said some really horrible things about her being weak because she's a woman and she's meant to be owned by the dick and all these like horrible fucked up things. And so it's kind of getting in her head a little bit in the beginning of this book. But Max is so supportive and he just wants to be there for her and he's not pushing her to be intimate or anything like that. It was really, really beautiful, their relationship. They are strong. They are committed. He had never been with a girlfriend. He always just kind of used girls here and there, didn't really want a relationship. So, you know, he didn't want it, but he couldn't stay away from Cassidy. And he's a very broody, you know, quiet, like moody, kind of grumpy, and she's a sunshine. So it is a grumpy sunshine a little bit here. And he doesn't tell her he loves her. He shows her he loves her. He's so protective and possessive. I love it. He's the kind of hero that I love. And this book, let me just tell you, Max is on the book boyfriends list. He's my kind of man. I mean, he's protective. He's possessive. He's alpha as fuck. He's great in bed. He's just dominating. He's just everything. He is it. And with how dedicated and all in he is with her, it's just beautiful. And everything, she has to go through a lot in this book. And it just makes me respect her so much more. They're such a dynamic couple. And so I love this because there's no third act breakup. There is a big conflict near the end that is a thing that kind of separates them, which made me cry. And that's the thing that's crazy. I cried multiple times in this book. I never cry in books. I read some really emotional or like, you know, dark romances that have triggers and stuff, and I usually don't cry. I cried multiple times in this book, so I had to give this 6 stars. I loved it so much. I don't know, like, I can't wait to continue with the series. Nikki Harris is like a new author for me that I'm going to be reading this entire series and looking at her other books. I actually just went on Amazon right after I read it. Oops, I kicked the camera. Sorry, I kicked the camera, so I hope everything's okay. I basically went onto Amazon and purchased the duet. There's the one with Arthane and Cosa Nostra together. And so I bought it right away because I freaking love this book. I'm going to put up a spoiler tag here because some of the stuff on why it was so emotional to me, maybe it's a spoiler. So if you don't want to hear that, you can just skip to when that goes away. But as I said, is she ends up getting pregnant. And when she went to the hospital, they tell her she was like, afterwards they call her and let her know, oh, you were 6 weeks pregnant. And what I loved about this is she did not hide this. She went to Max right away. Like the next time she saw him, of course, they ended up having like sex or whatever. I think they had sex before. I'm sorry. I'm totally forgetting. But she basically told him right away, like right when she woke up, she just blurts it out like, I'm pregnant. And I loved it because I'm so sick of these accidental pregnancies where the woman hides the pregnancy from the guy for a long time, and it's just bullshit. So Max actually is all in on this. He like even like tells her like, tell me you want to make a baby with me, like where it's like instead of it being accidental, they want this. And he starts like expanding a room to make a bigger room for them to live in and change rooms in the house. And like everybody in the family is super excited and all in. And it's just nice to read that an accidental pregnancy book. And so I absolutely love this. Of course, her being pregnant makes him move her in. And he's a lot more... Oh my God, Tootsie, no! Get that. Okay, sorry about that. My cat literally just brought a mouse into the house. So I had to go take care of that. Our doorway was partway open because our screen doors was not closed all the way. So this video is a mess, but let me dive right back in here. So basically, I just love how they took on the accidental pregnancy in this book. I thought it was different. It wasn't things that you expect to read. Third act breakups, issues, lying, all that kind of stuff wasn't in this. And so Max is all in from the get-go. He's protective. He wants to take care of her. There are like huge reveals in this book about her brother and who her real father is. And there's just a lot of going on in the mafia. And also Max is trying to do what he can to be around more because his job, he's really kind of the brute strength. He kills people. He does all that kind of grunt work too, but he's high up. But he's always been kind of like the bored butcher brother. And so he decides to make a deal because he is really smart. He's like an architect, went to school for that. And so he makes a deal with them for, him so he could be around more, but it's also going to help the mafia. But things go awry because earlier in the book, he had killed somebody. He basically decapitated him pretty much with a garrote, and he totally decapitates him, takes his head off, and ends up getting they get pulled over after they're going to this nice event, and he gets arrested for this murder. They end up having nothing on him for that, but he had a gun on him, so they were able to kind of make that charge stick. So this is where the emotional part came in for me because that scene was emotional. I don't know what it was, just her being pregnant, young, so devoted to him, and him getting arrested was really hard on her. And he basically took her to this empty lot kind of in this neighborhood that she grew up in, kind of those streets instead of his home, and had this VR set for her and had her look, and it was basically a house he created since he's an architect for them and their baby. And he let her know I'm gonna be back, but I have to go away, so you need to be strong. And she falls apart And it's like, and he proposes to her. He's like, I want you to be a butcher. Like, I want you to have my last name. And so they end up having like a really private ceremony, and then are just kind of doing a little bit of a reception because he's going to be going away for a couple of years. I think it was like 4 years, but he could get out with like 2, I think, with good behavior and like on parole. And so that was just so emotional, like their goodbye. I don't know what it was. It got me. Like, I was so emotional, and like, she almost misses him leaving, and he didn't want her to come to court. He didn't want her to visit him in prison at all, and she agrees to that for him because he needs to be strong and not have that weakness, because he could definitely have a big target on his back in prison, being who he is. It was so emotional. And so she was like, were you ever going to tell me you love me, you know? And like, they say kind of goodbye, and she goes up to her room and is devastated. And and by the way, when she wakes up that morning, there was a dog, a puppy, and he had bought her a puppy. Oh my God, I'm getting emotional right now. So that she would have that puppy to protect her and be with her while he's gone. And she finds, after he leaves, she finds this letter from him. Okay, I'm getting way too emotional. I don't know what it was about this book, but it just really hit me. Okay, this is embarrassing. I'm like literally crying on camera right now, but he wrote her this letter, and it literally says I love you a million times. It's like pages and pages and pages of I love you. And he said, like, this is for every day that I'm not going to be there. And it just, oh my God, it rocked me. I was bawling. It was so beautiful. And when he gets out, you know, he missed the birth of his daughter. He's pretty, you know, it's hard for him to transition from going from prison. But she was scared of the darkness overtaking him. Without her being there, and he doesn't. He didn't let it control him. He has waited to come back to her, and it's just so beautiful. He sees his daughter. He did have a daughter. They thought that they were going to have a son because they always had like all men in that butcher family, and so the daughter is adorable. He's like crying, which Max doesn't cry, and it was just precious. Like. And they have a great reunion, and then things tie into, like, lead up to a kind of a cliffhanger with what's going on with the Mafia. I'll take the spoilers down now. Sorry if you didn't notice. I was trying to hold back my tears here. I was way too emotional for this book. But there's leading into his brother Bronson's book, which I'm really excited for because he's kind of crazy, enjoys killing. Like, he enjoys what he does a little bit too much. And you've heard about him being in a relationship from before, but they had like something happen, and now he doesn't care about being with anyone, and he just kind of screws random chicks. And I really love his character. He's so supportive to Cassidy, and he's like this great uncle, and he's just amazing. And so I'm excited to read his book, and also because there's like a cliffhanger on what's going on with the Mafia. It also ties like the whole thing that happened with her brother. You find out everything, who her brother's father really is, and it's a big part of the Mafia world. So it was fantastic. 6-star book. I loved it so freaking much. I want to go into the next book right now, but I have to go back to my arc because I was supposed to read an arc, and the Mafia Readathon popped up, so I didn't want to read it till I finished it. So I have to read that book next. I have a couple arcs I need to read like this week. So thank you so much for watching this. Sorry I got so emotional during this clip, but I love the Mafia Readathon. I thank you to Jen at the Book Refuge for introducing Mafia to me, because like I kind of didn't really give Mafia a chance a few years ago. And since doing that, like I fell in love. Like Mafia is one of my favorite like types of romances to read. I just love it so much. And I had a blast. And it really pushed me to read like 4 books in the few days that this went on. So thank you so much. If you guys didn't participate next year. It's so fun, and you'll discover more Mafia from everybody else's recs. So I would definitely recommend trying it next year. Let me know if you did participate and what your favorite books were in the comments below so I can get some more recs, because I'm always looking for more Mafia. But thank you so much. As always, please remember to like and then subscribe to my channel. I will see you on the next one.